I think that's the nature of working together on an ongoing project, that there's some of that. Uh, the camaraderie, I think, has been lost a little bit because it used to be people who put out the paper were physically together. They were preparing it, they were printing it out, they were cutting and pasting it on pages, then having people proofread it, and then they had to physically cut out the misspelled words and put it in. I mean, it was a very labor intensive in that regard, and people were around doing that. And now it's all done on the computer. And, as I said, the guy I was just talking to who's doing our layout right now, I'm not even quite sure which city he's in right now. I know he's not in Baltimore. And, he can lay it out and be in Europe. So, there's still a lot of interaction, but it's all by phone or Skype or, email. And, it's not the same. When you were putting the paper to bed, as they said, and you were all together, it was a different type of feeling, no question about that. But I think the infighting happens just kind of naturally. It's just the nature of the beast, and especially when you're dealing with paid staff that aren't paid a whole lot. There's a lot of stressors that relate to that too, and volunteers. So that's, I think, just regardless of the fact that we no longer have an office and people aren't physically, you still get those issues popping up. And in some way, it may make it worse because you don't have the face-to-face to smooth it out,
In the early days, it was a volunteer thing. People come and go. It's just simple as that. There was no, they'd leave on their own. If they come back, we get new volunteers all the time. There was a cause then. It was more of it seemed like there was a mission in the community. There was more a degree of activism than I think there is now, on a proportionate basis. So, the dynamic was a little different then. We would get volunteers, they would do it. Now it's pretty much the same. You're still dealing with volunteers. People leave, people go, come and go for various reasons. Some of it personal, some of it, their own time. I know we've had writers that did beautifully for a good period of time, but other things came up in their lives and they just couldn't devote it, especially work. When you're not being paid, it's a challenge to try and stick with it. Others have stuck with it for a long time, myself included. It depends on how they view their role and how they want to do it. Stay with it.
I think that they would miss them if they weren't there. I don't know. Like I say, it's always been a very peripheral part of people's lives. They don't sit around waiting every month for the gay paper or the gay life to come out. When it's there, they look at it, and sometimes they see something of interesting, and sometimes they think, oh, that's stupid column, blah, blah, blah. But if there were no such thing, I think that they would begin to feel the absence fairly soon. Things are changed because of internet connections. People have ways of communicating with other gays and about gays that simply didn't exist 30 years ago. But I don't know whether that's, I don't know that gay blogs are going to replace gay newspapers. They might.
Well, there's no question in my mind that the internet's going to grow, and more and more people are going to be getting their information electronically through social media, and websites and blogs and things like that. But I also believe that there'll be I'm hoping that there'll continue to be a physical paper, at least for a while. Maybe at some point, literally everybody will have a iPod or whatever they call it, iPad, or one of those things, and you push the button and the paper pops up, and you start reading it. But at least, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I do enjoy turning the pages. I find it a little harder to get used to the electronic stuff.
I mentioned the people involved. I think I've mentioned most of them. I talked about the co-chairs and Harvey and Jim and some of our columnists. Because it obviously, any newspaper is the result of the people who do the work on it, including the people who you don't see, like the typesetters and the people who do layout. For years and years and years, all of those people were volunteers. They got paid nothing. In fact, most of them ended up chipping in their own money to pay for supplies and what have you, because the center didn't have any money to give to the paper. And it is a tribute to a lot of people who were conscientiously and enthusiastically involved for years and years in very difficult and trying situations, but who wanted to do something for the community, and they did. And it is, I think, very nice to be able to say it's still around, and it's done a lot of good in the last 30 years.
I'm not sure there's anything I need to add. I just want to say the gay press that developed along with the development of gay liberation movement has been important to the organizing efforts of the community and continues to be. The press should maintain a radical focus on some level that maybe some of the papers have lost. The gay press can provide a alternate voice that is helpful to the community at large. You know, LGBT people are potentially outsiders that can provide an outsider's perspective to the things that come up in our society, and the print press and the web press, whatever form it takes in the future, I think it will always be relevant to fostering this sense of identity that can be helpful to, can provide a counterpoint to the main thinking of of the society, and provide some insights that way. I really feel that we offer a different view, multiple different viewpoints, just by virtue of not being heterosexual. You know, there's some people questioning the whole idea of identity politics, and I think that's a valid question too. But all of those thoughts can be expressed in a press that is accessible to and sensitive to gay, lesbian, bi, transgender communities. Okay? Thank you.
I'm glad you're here to be documenting the tail end of this journey, part of the LGBT people who have been struggling and are established a place that they feel at least. There's still more work to be done, though. Still more work to be done, but it's nice to share some of this stuff with you. You know, as you get older, it's nice to have memories so that when you're really old, you can look back. But I still hope to be making some more memories. So,
thank you very much.
And that's a wrap. I had to say that. I was pretending I'm on television.